We're back again. The boys are back.
Boys are back in town.
Boys are back in town. Ding.
They don't make music like that anymore, do they?
They don't. They don't. Probably wouldn't fly. 2023. It's like,
No.
why is it only the boys? How do you know they're boys?
Oh. Oh boy.
And we're cancelled.
It's one way to get the views up.
Bit of controversy.
That's it.
We're talking a very exciting topic today. We're talking about going to bed and getting some sleep.
Oh, I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Oh,
You know, sometimes I'll wake up in the morning.
yeah.
And you know what gets me through the day? Knowing that I'll go back to bed. Knowing that at the end of the day, I'll be able to get back in here. No, that's a lie. Obviously, I've got a lot to look forward to. But no one ever says that, do you? You're like, fuck.
I feel that in my soul. I feel that. So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And obviously, I'm going to have a sip of an energy drink.
Yeah, because
as we talk about
we
sleep.
don't get... So where should we start with the sleep in terms of why is it sleep ultimately important?
For so many reasons.
Yeah.
I think it's not even that it is important. It's where it's arguably the most important part.
Yep.
Right? So I think there's the conventional stuff
Yep.
that everybody would understand.
Yep.
Even when we talk about like recovery and things like that, there is no thing you can buy or no protocol you can do
Yep.
that is going to be better for your recovery than just sleeping.
100%.
Right? That's when the body repairs.
Yep.
So there's that.
Yep. It's funny you say this. Like I used to, and at the time, you know, you just did it because you're like, well, this is what we do from a recovery point of view. When, you know, local footy playing and you just, the next morning you go to the pool or go to sometimes you might be fortunate enough to go to the beach, and that was always a pleasant experience. But it'd be in some ridiculous, like you'd play the Saturday and then you'd have Sunday morning recovery. And, you know, most players would do the right thing. But it's local level footy, so most of the players are going out on a Saturday night.
Yep.
So they're probably not getting home until maybe 3, 4, 5, whenever the sun comes back up. And then within 2 hours, they've got to be at recovery.
Yeah.
And they have had zero sleep.
Yeah. They'd be better off just staying in bed.
100%. So it's just funny that, you know, the whole rationale was like, okay, this is going to help fast track and improve and speed up recovery. But ultimately, we're taking away something that they probably need the most of, which is sleep. So I guess that, I just
100%.
thought of that when you said it.
Yeah, it's massive. And it's something that I think I probably underestimated the importance of for myself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But also for clients
Yep.
Earlier on, simply because it doesn't get a lot of airtime. You know, so talk about training all the time,
Yep.
like the science behind training, what's the most effective way to write training programs, things
Yep.
like that. And then nutrition as well.
Mhm.
You know, what do we need to do there to get the results we want? And then sleep, that's not that exciting.
Yeah. What it is, it's like you can't out-train a bad diet, but,
Yeah.
you know, where does sleep and recovery fit into that piece of the puzzle?
100%. Like, I think the biggest thing here is as well, and this is what kind of opened my eyes more, it's not just the recovery stuff. The recovery stuff, I think most people understand that, yes, if I want to recover, I should get some sleep.
I think it's always the first thing that's associated with it, for sure.
Yeah. Then there's everything else, right? So if we think about exercise, training, nutrition, etc., like what's the biggest barrier, do you think, for people to actually do it?
Time.
Definitely. It's time. And I guess if you're putting your coach's hat on, when people say they don't have time, what's the best way for somebody to address that? Like if you're saying people don't have time, like realistically, guys, everybody has time.
Yeah, you got to make time.
You got to make time. You got to plan.
Yeah.
You got to be organized.
Yeah.
And when it comes to being sleep deprived,
Yeah.
right, your ability to make decisions
Yes.
is significantly impaired.
Yeah.
Right. And there's so many studies on this.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing. So you talk about like brain fog or just feeling tired.
Yeah.
Right. It's like you're not productive. You don't utilize the time that you have properly.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's already the weekend.
Yep.
And you're so exhausted from the week that, well, weekend, maybe you've got social events, maybe you've got stuff on, but if you don't, it's like, all I want to do is literally lay on the couch and not move because I'm that exhausted.
Yep.
And then come Monday, let's just do it all over again.
Yeah. It becomes like Groundhog Day.
Yeah. And the biggest eye-opener for me was looking into a lot of nutrition weight loss studies on sleep.
Yeah.
And like, it's scary.
Yeah.
Like really scary. And one of the biggest ones was people that slept, and it wasn't even 8 hours a night. I think they only got people to sleep a minimum of 7 hours a night.
Yeah.
They lost 30% more weight in a 6-week period
than those who didn't sleep less than
7 hours.
Yeah.
Like 30%.
Yeah, it's massive.
That's huge.
That's massive.
So if you're trying to lose weight, sleep. Like,
prioritize it.
If there was one thing that I could change for like most people, it would be like, just sleep more. Because then you won't necessarily need me to tell you what to do. You'll just make better decisions.
Yeah.
Because you're less tired.
100%. Yeah. And yeah, you're right. It's like that decision fatigue is massive, especially if you're waking up first thing. Because we always, I guess that willpower thing and all that, like liken it to like a battery. And if you're waking up and the battery's not at 100%, then you've got less, I guess, battery life 100%. To get you throughout the day. So, normally by 4 o'clock, maybe you're starting to have a little bit of that decision fatigue. But if it is already at like 60%, then, you're making those decisions and making those, I guess, decisions that aren't going to align with your goals a lot earlier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think to paint a picture, if anyone's listening who has had a child before and they know what it feels like to be sleep deprived, right? Like it's terrible. Yep. Like the next day, like you're just running on fumes, right? But a lot of us unintentionally put ourselves in a pretty similar position all the time.
Yep.
Right. So that's the big thing that I think people don't really understand about why sleep is so important. It's not just the recovery aspect, although yes, that does matter.
Yeah.
It's actually the cognitive side.
Definitely.
Your ability to make the right decision. And, I don't have the exact data in front of me, but as I was looking through their studies as well, cravings for higher calorie foods like sugars, fatty foods significantly increases when you're sleep deprived, right? Because I don't know about you, but when you're tired and run down, it's like, well, I don't really feel like an omelet for breakfast. It's like, or I don't really feel like having a salad for lunch.
Yeah.
It's like, I want something quick, easy, and I want something that's going to make me feel good.
I want comfort food for sure.
Because I feel terrible.
Yeah.
Because I haven't slept.
Yep.
And that stuff starts to snowball.
Yep.
Into, okay, well, now I'm going to probably make even worse decisions. Yep. And worse decisions and worse decisions.
Yep.
So that's I guess the unspoken side of sleep.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think, we look at from a injury, I guess, reduction point of view, that's also been linked to if you have, I think it is around the 7-hour mark, so less than 7 hours. I think your risk of injury goes up 2 times in terms of what that is of people who get the 7+ hours. So, again, I think a lot of it is because of the fatigue aspect of things. You're probably more, I guess, inclined to not do what you need to do, or the body's not prepared to be able to do what it needs to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think why it becomes so important as well is when we're talking about making lifestyle changes, right? Whether it's starting to go to the gym, whether it's improving your eating behaviors and things like that. These days, like if there's a way to go upstream from the problem, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Right? Because ultimately everybody knows that exercise is good for them.
Yep.
Everybody knows that vegetables are good for them, etc. Right? So what can we do that makes it easier to make the right decision?
Yep.
And if we go upstream and you go, well, if you haven't had enough sleep, it actually impacts your ability to make decisions. Like it's directly that thing.
Yep.
So you go, all right, if we factor in that people probably know what to do and people probably have good intentions too.
Definitely.
It's not like people go, oh no, I deliberately want to put on more weight and get into a worse routine and develop poor habits with my exercise and eating. Yep. I've never really heard someone say that. It's normally a case of, well, I got started, I tried, and then I just couldn't stick to it, or it was too hard, or it was too hectic, or something like that. So if we go upstream and go, all right, you sleep more, you can make better decisions, which means you're going to plan everything better, you're going to be more organized, which means you're going to have more time.
Yeah.
Which goes back to our main barrier being time.
Yeah.
So we can't physically put more hours in a day.
Yep. But
we can make you far more productive with the hours that you do have.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's just a great way to, I guess, sum it up in the sense that, yeah, we could be trying to find this solution when really it's finding, what's going to have that domino effect on everything else, because it can be really, like you said, overwhelming. So I want to change all these things. I need to do all these things, but that requires energy to be able to do that. And to prioritize those things. But if you're like, okay, this is the one that's going to have the biggest impact and the flow down effect, that is massive.
100%. 100%. And I guess what would be good as well if we start sharing like how to do it.
Yeah.
Right. Because when it comes to even getting more sleep, I think there are a lot of people that go, well, yeah, I probably know.
Great, guys.
Probably know that.
I'd love to get more sleep.
Yeah. But like how?
Yeah.
And I think the big thing before we even go into the how is also saying it's important to add some context with your current like lifestyle.
Yeah.
So for example, if you had a newborn child and you're listening to us and we're like, hey, getting more sleep's a good thing. Yeah. Like you'd be sitting there going, yeah, well, thanks guys. But I have a screaming child. So what am I meant to do?
Yeah.
We totally get that.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes there are going to be constraints. Like if you're doing shift work, for example, it's about how do you find the best of that situation, I suppose.
Yep.
And while we would love everybody to be sleeping 8 hours every night, we accept that for some people,
we live in the real world.
Yeah. So it's really a case of going, well, we don't want to throw our hands up and be like, well, because I have a newborn or because I'm doing shift work, my sleep's just always going to be terrible. And just saying like, there's nothing we can do about it. We want to be saying, well, what practices can I put in place that give me the best chance of getting more sleep?
Love that. Because, there's a lot that we obviously out of our control, but we still have the ability to control those decisions as well and sort of set ourselves up, like you said, to really be able to optimize that as best we can.
Definitely. And I guess for you, like what things, tactics, strategies have you seen that have worked the best in terms of improving sleep quality for clients?
Yeah, I think just really simple things. So I guess prior to going to bed, probably give yourself a window to not consume fluids, food within a reasonable sort of time frame. We'll probably say half an hour, an hour before, because then you don't want to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, which is a common thing. And I know it's funny, like when we talk about increasing your fluid intake, I know clients that will get into the habit of it's the end of the day and I've only had one glass of water, so I'm going to like smash 5 glasses of water before I go to bed. And then obviously as a result, their sleep quality is going to get impacted because they're having to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. So if you can avoid that, please do, because that's going to be one thing that'll help set you up to be able to, once you are in that rested state and you're in sleep, you can get some really good quality sleep there as well, which is important. So that'll probably be the first two that I'll be like, okay, really simple things you can tick off.
Yeah, love it.
What about for you?
Love it. Yeah, I think both of those for sure. I think having the routine is important.
Yep.
And in general, I'm a big fan of setting up your environment to make things easier for you.
Yep.
And when we talk about like a sleeping environment, so things that are a real like low-hanging fruit, so to speak, like make sure your bedroom's at a comfortable temperature if you can.
Yeah.
So generally cooler is better. You don't want a hot room. It's going to be harder to fall asleep. So cool. And then make sure that your bedroom is there for sleeping, right?
Yes.
So as much as, some people love like watching TV and stuff in bed, if possible, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do work in your bedroom. Don't do stuff like that. Just literally have it for sleeping and maybe some other activities, but predominantly sleeping.
Way to get yourself sleep.
Exactly. And the other big thing with that routine is trying to have it consistent. So, it'd be, I'm going to brush my teeth.
Yep.
If you're like my wife, I'm going to put on 40 different skincare products.
Yep.
And then I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and then I go to bed.
Yes.
And it's consistent.
Yes.
And it starts to assist with that, circadian rhythm or body clock that we have. The more times you do that, things like, I know people love to like pop melatonin as a supplement, but it is a natural
way to actually get the body in that
substance.
Yeah.
So
100%.
If we can start to do that at a consistent time, that usually helps too.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Is finding that routine that works best for you. And it does take a little bit of trial and error, bit, but ultimately you want to make sure you are consistent with it. So yes, again, in an ideal world, you can have a timely, like, okay, this is the time that I'm going to start to sort of prepare myself to get myself into that routine. So I know, okay, by this time at the latest, I'm in bed and I'm hopefully, on my way to sleeping, and then having consistent wake time, because it sets the rhythm of everything, which can be really important, because that's, I guess, the hardest thing for a lot of shift workers is that constant change in their sleep routine.
100%. And I think that's a really important point you made there with the consistent wake time. And some people, and like I say, it was a bit of a joke, but semi-serious. People often ask, like, what time we have to get up or what time we go to bed and stuff like that. It's like, oh, how could you possibly like go to sleep at that time? I was like, we'll just get up early.
Yeah,
I guarantee
you want to go to sleep earlier.
Yeah,
100%.
100%.
I know I've royally effed up if I, even half an hour later than I normally, and I'm like, oh, it's just
trash.
harder. You feel trash, and even like some mornings will come in a little bit later, and if I delay that, and if I don't wake at the same time, I'm just more lethargic, and
Absolutely.
just it takes a little bit to sort of really get into the day, because your body clock's just out of whack.
Absolutely. And I think, again, us putting we live in the real world disclaimer here. But if, for example, you got up at like 6:30 or 7,
yep,
try and do that for 7 days of the week.
Yeah,
even on Saturday, even on Sunday. If you go out on a Saturday night or what have you, I accept that, yes, you're going to probably have a little bit of a sleep in.
Yep.
But if more days you're consistent with the wake time, you're going to have a more consistent time to actually fall asleep as well.
Definitely. Yeah.
In the short term, there's going to be a little bit of pain.
Yeah.
Right? Where, hey, I haven't been able to fall asleep, but I'm still going to get up at that time.
Yeah.
And that's just going to get that body clock onto the right rhythm.
Yeah. And then I guess if you're really sleep deprived, utilizing naps if you can, and you have the luxury to be able to do that. We have a little saying: if you snooze, you lose. So if you don't, so if you don't snooze, you lose. So having that, option up your sleeve, if you can be a really good way to sort of pay off that, I guess, sleep debt, to then be able to get you back into that routine that you're after.
Absolutely. And I think for the shift workers, that's really key.
Yeah.
I know some, like my wife, who I constantly throw under the bus on here, would like previously wear it as a little bit of a badge of honor that, like, oh, I don't need to do a nap, or I function fine on 5 hours sleep. It's like, maybe you think you do
until you've actually had the sleep.
Then you go, oh my God, is this what feeling like a human is like?
Clarity of thought.
Yeah. So you want to make sure that you're using those things to your advantage.
Yeah.
So like the afternoon nap, for example, you've done right. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And particularly that goes back to the parents, specifically the mums. You got a young child or something like that. It's like, you've got that one window sometimes when your kid's asleep, and it's like, I want to try and get everything under the sun done.
Yeah. Yep.
Sometimes you're better off just going, even if it's 30 minutes, just lay down.
Yeah. Have
a rest.
Yeah.
You'll be far better off doing that and letting everything else, task wise, sit for a little bit.
100%.
For sure. And then I guess the big thing is technology as well.
Yes. And we've all been guilty of this. Just, scrolling for the sake of scrolling. So again, if you can avoid blue light, that is, and even like in terms of, I know, I'm guilty for it. I'll use my phone as an alarm.
Yeah.
But I know as soon as I get into the bedroom, it's like I've set the alarm and that's going down. I'm not looking at it. As soon as I get into bed, it's not even going to be something that I will entertain.
Yeah, I think that's a good tactic. I like to put my phone, like set my alarm, put my phone do not disturb.
Yep.
Before I go and have a shower.
Yep.
Because it just means I'm not going to get distracted by anything that pops up. Like sometimes it's notification, someone's messaged you, something like that.
Yep.
So you just let that be.
Yep.
And I've learnt that when my phone's on do not disturb, there's only certain contacts in my phone that can call me.
Fantastic.
Karl is one of them. Just because, what if he's lonely?
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, I think the blue light aspect is big. So going back to that circadian rhythm, it's based on light. So when we see light in the morning, it's like, oh, we should be awake now.
The body's rising.
When it goes dark at night, it's like, oh, it's time for sleep.
Yeah.
Obviously, technology means we have a lot more artificial light around, which can throw that out. I think the other thing as well is whether it's social media or the news or something like that, sometimes it can be pretty stressful.
Yeah, it's stimulating.
Yeah.
And from exactly, like you said. And we crave that sort of little hit. So, and that's why a lot of the TikTok and all that sort of stuff, the attention span and everything like that. But again, before you know it, you've spent a pretty significant time just scrolling through and for nothing really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. It can get you worked up.
Yeah.
If
Anxious without even knowing. Yeah.
You see like news updates on your phone.
Yeah.
Things like that. So that's certainly not going to help you falling asleep.
No.
And I think the other tactic that I'd throw out there, and this is for people specifically that struggle falling asleep, because I think sometimes you break it into two broad categories for me anyway. So do you struggle falling asleep?
Yep.
Or do you wake up in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So they're kind of two, and this can work, I guess, for both. And I call this a brain dump.
Good. We're on the same page. Good work.
A lot of people it's like, yes, it's journaling.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm not a psychologist, so I don't have to use the technical terms for things. But sometimes like your mind is just racing.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And you get concerned, you're stressed about things. There's a bunch of stuff, like maybe it's something at work the next day, or it's, I've forgotten to do X or Y or Z or what have you. And you're lying there in bed and you're like, I just need to sleep. I just need to sleep. I just need to sleep.
Yeah.
It's like, well, sometimes the sleep's just not going to come.
Yeah.
So the brain dump is a pen and a piece of paper. And you just start writing, right? With no real plan. Whatever's in your mind, you just start writing. And it could just be, I'm tired, I can't sleep, over and over and over again. But eventually, stuff will just start coming out.
Yeah.
All the stuff that you're stressed about, this thing tomorrow, or this thing, blah, 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 blah. You write it out until there's literally nothing left. And then you take that piece of paper and you scrunch it up and you throw it in the bin.
Yeah, yep.
That's what I do anyway.
Yep.
And it's pretty much getting all those thoughts out of your brain onto that piece of paper and then getting rid of them.
Yeah.
And then going, cool, now I can sleep.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. Yeah, I do that where it's, I'll have that racing mind where in the sense of, I've got to do this tomorrow, I've got to do this, and just jotting them down and then leaving that and be like, okay, that's going to wait till tomorrow.
100%. I think that's a good tactic. And if there's things where, because the brain dump, I think, is good if it's just like everything.
Just thoughts. Yeah, yeah.
If there's things that you're particularly like stressed about, like there's a big issue, right? I think the other tactic, and you can do it with the actual circles and the whole visual thing. This is from Simon Sinek, I believe. But it's literally just writing lists.
Yeah.
So first list is everything that you're possibly stressed about.
Yep.
So it's like thing at work, had a fight with my partner, interest rates, there's a war in the Middle East, there's this, there's that. It should be a huge list, right, of all the things that you're stressed about.
Yeah.
And then you write another list, and it's all the things you can actually control or anything you can influence, right? And you notice that list is far smaller.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, if there's issues at work, it's like, well, can you control what anybody else says or does or thinks? No. All you can do is go and do your job.
Yep.
Sweet. Same thing with all of these. Then you have that small list and you go, sweet. From that small list, it's like, well, what am I going to do tomorrow? Done. And then you can go to bed thinking, all right, I was worried about all these things. There's only 3 or 4 things that I can actually influence.
Yeah.
And tomorrow I'm going to do X.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's such a great, I forgot about that. That's such a great little task and activity you can do to be able to, properly switch off, because it can be really hard.
Oh, massively hard. Massively hard. And I think it's back to us being realists. Like, you can have a really good sleep routine where it's, really regimented and dialed in.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah, I know it's finishing the sentences now. But if you're really worked up and stressed about something, that's not going to go away.
Yep.
Right? So we need to have a strategy where when that happens, because it is going to happen, what are you going to do?
Yep.
And I think the brain dump, or just like the list of concerns and then the list of things you can actually control or influence, using one of those is a real like easy way to get on top. I'm not saying you need to solve the problem.
No.
But it should make you feel good enough to at least sleep.
Yeah, because you ultimately now have taken back control.
Yeah.
Because you're like, okay, now I've got a plan. I know what I'm going to do, and it's less daunting. Yeah. And I guess we could layer that a little bit. And as much as you do that, you might still feel like the heart is racing and all that sort of stuff, where maybe doing some form of breathing,
absolutely,
some diaphragmatic breathing that we're big on, can be really powerful as well, because it's really hard to control the racing mind. But if you can control your breath, it's going to help drive the heart rate down, get you back into that rest and digest state, which is going to be a very good, obviously, environment to put yourself in when it comes to sleeping.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, and which is something we should get in the habit of doing, but we can put some links in the show notes. because I think the diaphragmatic breathing exercises, and then just that mindfulness meditation where it's just sensory stuff. So breathing, then being aware of how your breath feels, being aware of like how your hands feel, feet feel, stuff like that as you're lying there.
Some tension.
That stuff can be really useful too. So yeah, we'll link that in the show notes. Very professional of us. And I guess if we wrap this up with a real practical guide framework, become a fan of this 3-2-1. Because it's really easy to remember. Again, it's not going to apply to absolutely everybody, but you can take parts of it that will apply to everybody. So the 3-2-1 is as simple as this. Ideally, you're not eating anything within 3 hours of going to sleep. All right. This has the added benefit of, hey, if I'm also guilty of having some late night snacks and that's holding me back from losing some weight, cool, we can solve that problem as well. So it could be, if I'm going to go to bed at 10, well, from 7 p.m., I don't eat, right? Then the 2 is there's no liquids within 2 hours. Right? So this goes back to what you were saying earlier, that as much as being hydrated is really good, if you are drinking a liter of water directly before going to bed, well, yeah, it's not a surprise or a mystery that you need to wake up and go to the bathroom. Right? So having that 2 hour window where, yes, being hydrated is important, hydrate earlier in the day.
Yes, prioritize that earlier in the day.
So it's like, have your chamomile tea 2 hours before you go to bed. Right?
Love it. Love you said that. It's good.
And then the 1 hour is the technology. So it's like TV is off, phone is off. I think it's good as a reminder, set a little alarm on your phone or a reminder, go, cool. Like, plug your phone in, set your alarm, do not disturb. So again, if it's like 10 p.m. we're getting ready for bed, it's like 9 p.m. everything's off.
I love it. That's really good. I think that's setting a lot of people up to succeed there.
Yeah, and I think, again, 3-2-1, nice and easy to remember. If you're a shift worker or you've got kids and you've got responsibilities and things and you can't always apply that, you can still apply that. Okay, if there's a window of time between you're eating and going to bed, that's a good thing. Same with the drinking, same with technology, because this framework is not something that you or I could follow.
No,
because we get home sometimes at 8:30. And then we need to get up before 5 the next day. So our ability to not eat is a little bit limited and not drink. But I've certainly got into the habit of going, I'm hydrated earlier.
Yes.
I have dinner and I have some water with that. And it's like, for me, maybe dinner's an hour and a bit before I go to bed. Right? But I'm not eating directly before going into bed. And I've gotten much better at putting my phone away before going to bed. And wouldn't you know it, I sleep so much better.
And I think the great thing about a framework, there is that level of flexibility within it. And it's all, content specific, or context, I should say, specific to your lifestyle, to the situation that you're currently in. But I think, in terms of being able to tick them off, then, it's a really good starting point.
Absolutely. And I think if you are listening to this and you have been struggling, as Karl was saying, like finding time to exercise, or you've been struggling, sticking to the right food choices and things like that, have a think about if you could improve your sleep. Because that's probably the one thing that's going to be that first, catalyst or the first domino. And once you knock that over, promise you everything else is going to suddenly feel so much easier. Kind of like, when you go on holiday and all of a sudden everything feels better. It's like, partly it's because you're not going to work, but partly it's because
you're getting more sleep. You're right.
It's like, oh my God, I'm sleeping so well. Like, and then you go like, when you go to bed and then you wake up naturally, like there's no alarm or whatever, and you just get up and you go, I feel fantastic.
This is how
that's what we're chasing.
To do it.
Exactly. I mean, they had some tigers and stuff trying to kill them, but at least they could get a good night's sleep.
100%. Oh, well done. That was great.
Awesome. Well, we will link in the show notes some of those resources, and we'll go from there.
Till next time.